And welcome back to redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. Today we're working on the Boutique Sassy Lace. This is a yarn, yes, it's totally fantastic. It actually looks like lace just like so. So it really gives you a beautiful finished look. You know, this is the kind of scarf that you could actually doll up for a wedding and just be very amazing with trim, and a fantastic scarf just like you see the model wearing. Today's tutorial we're going to be using a 5.5mm knitting needle, or US 9, and the gauge of this is determined by the holes, which I'll explain in just a bit. So let me show you how to get started working on the Red Heart Boutique Sassy Lace. To get started, all we're going to just do is just slip this off, and like so. So essentially we can see that the material is still fantastic. It's still just balling up now, and it is amazing. So it's basically just wrapped in a continuous circle, and it's not twisted, so that it lies flat so that your scarf will come out looking amazing. So right in between there is a piece of cardboard. You can leave that in for now if you wish. I actually prefer to leave that in right off the bat. And all I want to do is that I want to make sure that this thing does not start twisting on me. So I'm just going to lay this down so that my loops are facing up. So I know it's kind of hard to see, but there's loops on the end of each one of those, and that's exactly where we want to work. So I'm just going to lay this out like so, so that it comes to my hands so that it's laying flat, just like you see. And I know it's hard to see with the white background, but I would hope that you can bear with me at this point. So to get started with this, it is so simple, it is crazy. So let's get started on that next. To get started on this, there's holes that are on the edges, and that's exactly where we want to play when it comes to this yarn. It doesn't say this in the instructions, but do you see how you have the cut edge right here? What I would do if I were you is that I would fold it so that the two holes are lining with each other, just like so, and that'll become hole number 1. We only need 4 holes altogether. So I'm just going to slip my needle through, or yep, my needle, and now I'm going to look for the next one. So I'm just going to put this on. So that's number 2. I only need 4. So I'm just going to look for the next one. There it is. That's 3. And now this is 4. So essentially I have now just cast it on. And remember that this one right here, these two are going to operate together. And I'll show you why that matters in just a moment. So let's begin. Step number 2. So to begin with this yarn, it is totally amazing. We just want to play in the loops. This is very much like Red Heart Sachet, and we simply just want to put in our knitting needles into the same hole on the outside. So the gauge is determined by this hole. So if you have knitting needles that are not the right size as per the instructions, you just have to make sure that your knitting needles will both fit through this hole without any pressure. And this 5.5 that I have in my hands, I actually have a 6, so it's a little bit too big. I can see that there's a little bit of pressure, so I would want to reduce down when it comes to this. So I want to take my next hole, and I just want to slip it up over top of the back needle. And now I just want to take that one and bring it forward and slide off. So that's 1. So we simply just come into the very next hole on this side. Okay, coming into the back. So this is what happens when it's not enough space, is that you might not actually grab the hole. You might stick it through your lace, which is not really desirable. So we're now just going to look for the next hole, and you will get your rhythm so that you can actually start looking for that size really automatically. It's not something that you really have to think much about. So we're just going to go into the next one, like so, grabbing our next hole that you see coming up. And in the background there, you can see that I'm dragging all of this. So I'm just going to roll it out one more time. I don't want to be too obsessive and unroll all of it. I just want to continue to maintain it and nurse it. So I'm just going to slip the hole over and just bring it through. Like that. Perfect. And now this one where I was telling you where it was folded, stick your needle through both of them. Okay, and what that's going to do is going to put a permanent fold in that first one so that you won't see a frayed edge. So let's take that next hole. So this is very much like Red Heart Sachet. It's very much like the Sassy, that we're going to be using every hole that you possibly can see, and there's only 4. So as soon as you add more than 4 loops, your scarf is going to get shorter. So one of these will equal 1 entire scarf. So let's go on to your next process. For the next step here, this is next row, we just want to simply just slip in our knitting needle. So this is where there's no more thought process to it. We just want to make sure that this yarn here just stays completely flat. We don't want it twisting in circles because then it gets harder. So we're just going to slip up every loop and knit as normal. So we're just going to slip into that there. We're just going to look for the very next hole that's available on the yarn. And we're going to knit as normal. This is one of those, it's really not a hard project at all. I wouldn't even say it's at any level of difficulty. I would say it's pretty easy. So if you've never knit before, this is actually really easy. And something that you can accomplish, and people might actually think that you've done all the lace work yourself. You don't have to tell them, of course. And so this is what happens. If it gets all twisted, you're going to spend your time untwisting it. So you're going to get into your own rhythm. I find for myself it's easier when I'm sitting on a chair versus sitting in front of the camera, just like so. The angle of the yarn is coming from a different point of view. So this is what you would want to do, is that you look for this and you say, okay, if I twist like I normally would, what's going to happen is that it's going to put a twist in this material. So sometimes I have to rotate the hook the other way in order to keep this from twisting all around. So let's begin. I'm going to show you another step up that we go. So you're just simply just going to knit back and forth till you have about a meter or a yard left on your hank as well, and then you start fastening it off. So I'm just going to knit this one, and you want to fasten it off or cast it off is just like you normally would with knitting. And what I would recommend is that you grab some thread and a darning needle that matches and complements this color, because we're going to use that in order to finalize the very last stitch when it comes to working on this. So in the next part of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to begin to cast off. And it is really that simple, and you can see that it's starting to layer up and starting to look absolutely amazing. To begin the casting off process, we're just going to start the row like you normally would. So you can pretend that you're not even casting off at this process. So you're going to knit the first stitch as you normally would, like so. So now you have one on this side and you have the 3 on here. So you're going to knit the next one as if nothing is happening. So you just want to make sure you get right into the stitch. So again, my knitting needles are a little bit too big for this. They're bigger than the recommended size, so it's a little harder. So I'd want to reduce my hook or needle size in order to make it work. So I've just knit now 2 on this side. So all I'm just going to do is take my knitting needle and just slip the first one over the second. Just do it really delicately, and there you go. So now 2 stitches just became 1. So we're simply going to do the next one. We're going to knit as normal. Like so. And again, the same process. We're going to take the back and pull it up over the front one. There is a science or madness to this, but it's actually very simple. And again, we want to do the final one here. And this is where we're going to want to grab our darning needle and our thread to fasten off the very last one. So we're just going to do one more. This is going to make the last 2 become 1. So this is the very last one here, so we're just going to slip it up and over, and you will end up with 1 loop left on your knitting needle, just like so. So now what I would do is grab your knitting needle, or sorry, grab your darning needle and your thread, and simply just pull this through this loop here, and just grab it and just sew it into position, and then trim it off really nicely, and voila, you would have an amazing scarf, just like you see here. So this is the Boutique Sassy Lace. Look for it by Red Heart. It's a brand new yarn as of 2013, and it is really amazing, and there's different colors and ideas that you can do with this particular product. Until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd.